You, curious soul of the night, have you ever felt someone watching you, even when you thought you were safe? Most of these stories don't begin with a scream, but with something small, a message, a glance, a gift left at the door. Turn off the lights, close the door. Tonight, you'll hear true stories, ordinary people who discovered that fear doesn't live in dark forests. It lives just outside their window. After graduating college, I didn't have much money, so I rented an apartment and split it with a stranger named Randall. At first, he seemed quiet and easygoing. He kept to himself and spoke with a heavy Spanish accent. The room I rented came furnished, which was a big selling point. A twin bed shoved into a corner, a decent dresser, a closet, and a small TV stand. On the dresser sat a cluster of stuffed animals, which struck me as weird. The largest was a teddy bear, positioned to face the bed. When I mentioned the bears, Randall laughed loudly and said his room had the same setup. "Leave them," he said, as if it were respectful to the landlord. I shrugged and spent the first day unpacking, arranging my things, and setting up the TV. That night, while lying in bed and watching a show, I heard a small, unfamiliar noise, a faint electronic chirp, and assumed it was one of those harmless apartment sounds. A day later, Randall was out most of the time. That evening, I heard the front door open and shut, and footsteps down the hall. Later, while changing into pajamas, I heard the same tiny electronic sound again, clearer without the TV. It was unnerving, but still easy to dismiss as an appliance. The following day at work, Randall asked me about the book I'd been reading in my room. I was confused. I always kept it tucked under the bed. He told me he'd gone into my room to grab something he'd left and noticed the book. I told him politely not to enter my space, but the room had no lock, and I felt powerless. That night, when I reached under the bed for the book, a chill ran through me. How could he have seen it? My eyes drifted up to the dresser and landed on the large teddy bear again. It was turned at a strange angle, directly facing my bed and me. Something about the way it was positioned made my skin prickle. I walked over slowly, picked the bear up, and examined it. Staring back at me from one of the stitched eye sockets was a small black lens. My heart jumped into my throat. There was a tiny camera embedded where the eye should have been. I threw the bear across the room and ran to Randall's door. The knob wouldn't turn. It had a lock. I pounded and shouted his name until the light under the door winked out. I imagined him turning it off on purpose. He didn't answer. Panic rose hot in my chest. I went back to my room and called the landlord, voice shaking, explaining that I had discovered a camera and needed out immediately. He made no fuss about the short tenancy. I packed a few things, loaded my car, and left that night. I never looked back. I reported what happened to the landlord and kept the memory of that plastic lens close, mostly as a warning to myself. The landlord never asked for rent for the nights I'd stayed. Since then, I've developed a deep unease around stuffed animals, especially teddy bears. I can't stand them facing me. I always turn them away or remove them entirely. The idea that something meant to be innocent could be used to violate me changed how I think about small, supposedly harmless objects. The betrayal of privacy taught me to be hypervigilant. Even now, years later, I still check rooms more carefully. I look behind toys, under cushions, and inside lamps. I find myself cringing when a plush toy is propped to stare at a guest bed or couch. It's a silly reaction to some people, but after that night, it felt necessary. I learned a hard lesson about boundaries and trust, and about how quickly a place can feel like home one moment and like a trap the next. I still sleep with the light on sometimes, won't let a stuffed animal face me in the dark. I also made a point to change roommates only to people I knew. And I warn friends now to trust their instincts. The memory has faded, but not fully gone. It still sits at the edge of my quiet moments, like an ugly, blinking eye, reminding me to be cautious. I was in 6th grade when this began. It started the week of Halloween. I'd stay after school to help build the haunted house for the carnival, goof off with friends, and get pizza for our trouble. One of the kids who stayed late was Chris. He'd always been friendly and funny around me, never given me a reason to feel uneasy. 2 weeks after Halloween, a group of girls came up to me grinning and told me I had a secret admirer who would text me that night. I was curious. Later, just before bed, I got a messenger message from Chris. I'd forgotten I'd added him. "Maya, I need to talk to you," it said. I replied, worried. "Everything okay?" He took a long time to reply, then sent a huge paragraph confessing that he loved me, how I'd driven him crazy since Halloween, how he tried to impress me at recess with soccer skills, and how tired he was of being ignored. It ended with, "Will you be my girlfriend?" I cringed. I barely knew him. I tried to let him down gently. I didn't like him that way. I just wanted to be friends. He kept asking why. I made up reasons until he stopped responding. The next morning was a nightmare. His friends told me that Chris had announced to the whole grade he wanted to kiss me, and that he'd corner me to do it. Threatened, I told my teacher. She told me to stay inside at recess and run back to class if he came near. That wasn't enough. I reported him to the principal, who promised to act. I lived directly across the street from school, and everyone knew it, Chris included. A few days later, I walked home, stepped into my house, and barely 2 minutes later, heard a knock. I looked out the window and saw someone duck behind a parked car across the street. My mom opened the door to find a note on the porch addressed to me, saying there was a surprise under the Cadillac in our driveway, my brother's car. He went to check and found nothing, but soon after, the Cadillac stopped working. My brother had to sell it. I never knew what Chris did. The harassment escalated. His friends pressured me to give him a chance, and I once caught Chris taking a picture of me walking home, only because I heard the camera sound. Every morning, he messaged things like, "Can't wait to see you," or "You'll look beautiful today." He knew where I lived. I was scared. I went to the school counselor expecting help. Instead, she told me, boys will be boys, that they do crazy things when they're in love, and I should feel flattered and learn from it. At the time, I didn't realize how wrong that was. Later that day, I told my mom what she'd said. My mom was furious. She went to the school, demanded action in the principal's office with me present, and warned the counselor never to speak to me alone again. Still, it felt like nothing was ever truly done. One weekend, while my parents were out shopping, I was on the 2nd floor watching a video before bed, when something hit my window. Thud, 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 like someone throwing stones. I peeked through the curtain, and my heart dropped. Chris stood below, holding a handful of rocks, looking straight up at my window. He began to throw another before he noticed me. I checked every door and window and locked them. My phone buzzed with 4 messages from him. "Why did you leave? I just want to talk. I'm sorry. All I want is a kiss. Please forgive me." Then, bye. I blocked him. After that, I didn't have another direct incident, though I had to see him every year through school until graduation. The last I heard, he was arrested. God only knows for what. The thing that terrifies me even now is that an adult counselor minimized what I experienced and framed it as romantic. A child shouldn't be told stalking and harassment are compliments. I hope she no longer works with kids, and I hope I never see Chris again. When I was 22, I matched with Hunter on a dating app. Our first meeting was a quick coffee. The second was drinks at a nearby bar. We both got a little buzzed, and it felt easy. The third was dinner. And that night, I began to notice little things that made me hesitate. We kissed at the end. That was our first and only kiss. And I told myself it meant things were fine. A couple of weeks later, we had our fourth date. I wasn't as excited. I was paying closer attention. His mannerisms felt oddly antisocial, a little off. He drank too much, grew pushy, and tried to kiss me several times. I don't like public displays of affection, especially in a crowded bar, so I declined. After I hinted I was tired and ready to go, he paid the bill, and we left. As we walked to our cars, he bluntly asked to go home together. I said, "Not tonight. I'm tired and have work tomorrow," even though I wasn't. He kept insisting and muttering about dragging me to work, and I decided I wouldn't see him again. I drove slowly home, cautious. After a few turns, I noticed the same car behind me. I texted, "Are you following me?" He replied almost immediately, "Yes, I just want to make sure you get home okay." I called. He didn't pick up. I pulled over, texted him to stop following me, and he paused long enough in the street for me to think he'd read it, then drove off. Later, in bed, he messaged an awkward apology about getting drunk and suggested a low-key night at his place. I didn't answer. The next morning, I replied that our personalities didn't click, and I needed to focus on myself. His tone flipped. Angry messages arrived, demanding money for things he'd bought, and revealing personal details I won't repeat. I blocked him. Then the no-caller ID calls started, non-stop. I ignored them until they stopped. The following day, when my parents were out, I came home to a bouquet and a card on the stoop. An apology, asking for another chance. He somehow knew where I lived. It felt violating, not romantic. I sent a firm, final text. "Do not contact me or come to my house again, or I'll get a restraining order." I kept his number blocked. Not long after, I woke at night to noises downstairs. My parents were away. I crawled out of my lofted bedroom, hid beneath the bed, and called 911 while whispering. I texted family to ask who might be home. No answers. I heard an outside door open, footsteps on the carpeted stairs that stopped outside my bedroom, and the sound of drawers being rifled beside my bed. A man muttered under his breath. For a terrifying second, I thought the voice might be Hunter's. I lay still, heart racing, praying my phone stayed silent. The intruder sat on the bed for a few minutes, then left. I waited under the bed, on the line with the dispatcher until police arrived and swept the house. Officers found several unlocked windows and noted a dining room window large enough for someone to squeeze through. While they suggested entry was possible, there was no definitive proof tying him to the break-in. I filed a report, handed over screenshots, including his admission that he'd followed me home, and pursued a restraining order. The police advised me not to accuse him of breaking in without proof, and to avoid contacting him. I got the restraining order, and he stopped contacting me. But the fear didn't end. Until I moved out of my parents' house, I lived with the constant unease that he might be lurking outside. Even now, I sometimes worry he'll find me. The memory of the shoes beneath the bed and the way he knew where I lived has stayed with me. It shook me, honestly,